All right, so this week we're going over chapter 2. We're going to look at malware and social engineering attacks. And I got to make sure I click on the right screen to this. So we'll look at malware, different types of malware. Look at how malware is delivered. We're going to look at the types of psychological and social engineering attacks. Look at physical social engineering attacks. We can talk a lot about different types of terms that you guys will be hearing in this. Different ways that some attackers can get information so they can plan their attack. All right, malware is malicious software. So that's something that's going to come into your computer without your consent and knowledge. It's going to come through a payload. It's going to perform some kind of harmful function once it's invoked. This is a general term. It's going to be a wide variety of damaging or annoying software. And we've all run into this in the past. You know, you've encountered some type of malware in one form or another. So we got some different classifications of malware. Circulation is spreading rapidly to other systems in order to impact a large number of users. Infection is how it embeds itself into a system. Concealment is how it avoids detection. It conceals its presence from scanners. And then the payload capabilities is what actions the malware performs. When we look at circulation, we've got two types of malware. Have primary traits of circulation: viruses and worms. Viruses, that's a malicious computer code that reproduces itself on the same computer. Program virus is going to be a virus that infects the executable program file. Some other terms you're going to hear is a macro. It's a series of instructions that we group together as a single command. So we see here that we got like the data file virus, macro virus. It's written in the script known as a macro. Okay, this is something that for anybody that plays games or something, you may have a series of commands set up that you hit, the F key, and it goes through and it performs those actions. That is a macro. Appender infection is a virus infection method. It's a virus that appends itself to the end of a file. And this is something that's easily detected by virus scanners. So we see some examples here of this. How you have the code 1, code 2, and then at the end of it, you're going to have the virus. Let me actually zoom in here so we can actually see what's going on. All right, so you have the actual virus appended to the end of the program. So we got this line of code we ran, and then it finds it down here. Actually back that out just a little bit. All right. Viruses obviously don't want to be found. So they go to great lengths to avoid detection. So these are what we call an armored virus. It's trying to protect itself from being found out, from being detected and removed by antivirus or users. So we see some different armored virus infection techniques. The Swiss cheese infection. This is where it's going to be, the virus code is going to be scrambled, so it's more difficult for it to be detected.
Why do they call it scrambled egg infection?
That's what they call it.
Swiss cheese.
Swiss cheese has holes. So it's got holes in the code and it's moved around. Split infection is the virus is split into several parts. And they're going to be put at random places throughout your program or in the host program. Now, with this one, there may be something in there that's unnecessary. It's just garbage code that's put in there. It's something that's thrown in there so it's not easily detectable. So it's trying to avoid being detected. Or trying to mask their true purpose of what the code is. Viruses can also mutate or change. So it can, based on when it's ran, it can change. So some of these have code that when it's run a set number of times, it changes. It changes the code. It's going to mutate. And you see a couple different options here for these. Some of them change when it's executed. Some of them change after a set number of times. Some of them changes each time it's executed. So once again, we're going through an example here of viruses where it's decrypted, goes through the decryption process in the program code, and then it's got a virus code that's encrypted there. Okay, so this may be the Swiss cheese infection here, where this encrypted could be hidden in the program code. Split infection. All right, so we get program codes here in the orange. So when it's running through, it finds, okay, we got part C here. Then it runs down, finds B, more regular program. Then you get the main body of the virus and other parts, and you see how it's kind of split up. So it's not all written together. So it's in that way so that when it tries to find it, you know, at A, jumps to B, and it goes to C, then it goes back down to D, and then to the main body. All right, so it's there and it's trying to hide itself by splitting and dividing the code. All right, viruses is going to perform two actions. It's going to unload a payload to perform a malicious action, or it's going to reproduce itself by inserting code into another file on the same computer. Okay, some examples of what a virus can do. A virus can cause a computer to repeatedly crash. It can erase files or reformat hard drives. Turn off computer settings, security settings. You know, there was a virus, and I think I may have told you guys this last week. There was a virus a few years ago, well, a lot of years ago, that was part of a video game. And it was little elves that ran around and threw balls at each other, and it had a timer in it. And when the computer clock hit December 26th, it performed the actions, and there it started to, you know, reformat the hard drive, erase files. So it was a destructive virus on that. Some things a virus can't do. You know, it cannot automatically spread to another computer by itself. It has to have some kind of user action to spread. Viruses are attached to files, and they're spread by transferring infected files. You know, this may be, you know, some ways the files may be transferred, maybe a USB drive, maybe a file that's downloaded from the internet, something through the email, maybe a file that you click on to say, yes, download this from this update. All right, worms are malicious programs that use computer networks to replicate. They do send copies of themselves to other network devices. You see some examples of stuff they do. They may consume resources or leave behind a payload to harm infected systems. They can delete computer files They can allow remote connections to your computer, or remote control the computer by an attacker. I had a company contact me a while back that they were infected. And while they were trying to remove files that were appearing on their network, they got a fax, or their printer started printing off a file telling them to stop trying to remove the viruses. They were not, the office they were working on, that network was not infected. It was the person's personal laptop that he was using to remotely connect into his network. He had got a worm on it, and the note told them to stop. That was printed out, told them to stop, or he would infect the entire network. He would send his worm through the network. But he was able to watch everything they were doing because he was able to remotely take control of their one of their computers and see what they were doing. Now, what the guy was doing, he was connecting to the person's laptop and then using his laptop that he was controlling to connect to their network. All right, so we see some examples of what worms can do and the difference between worms and viruses. So we look at the action of what does it do. A worm exploits a vulnerability in an application or operating system. It uses a network to travel from one computer to the other. It does not infect a file. And there does not have to be user action for it to spread, because it can spread on its own. Where a virus will insert malicious code into a program or a data file, for it to spread, it has to be taken by a user or sent by a user. Some action by the user has to be performed for it to spread to other devices. It does infect files, and like I said, it does have user interaction. All right, for an infection, you got 3 examples of malware that have primary traits of infection: Trojans, ransomware, and crypto malware. Trojan is an executable program that does something other than what the program is advertised to do. So it's going to have hidden code in there to launch the attack, and it's going to appear as a data file most of the time. The example they give here is a user downloads a free calendar program. Program will scan the system for credit card numbers and passwords and transmit that information to attacker through the network. You also have special types of Trojans. The remote access Trojan gives the threat actor unauthorized remote access to the victim's computer by using specially configured communication programs. Now, it's called a Trojan because it's hidden inside of the file. So this may be a game, it may be a program like they have the example here. Years ago, people would download screensavers, and a lot of the screensaver programs were Trojan files, and they would gather information, send it out. That's why it's important that your firewall settings, firewalls are a piece of software or hardware that control what comes in and out of your computer, out of your network. So if you set your network settings on your firewall, you set it to block outgoing communications from certain ports that you don't need. Ransomware, this is a big one right now. It prevents users' devices from properly operating until a fee is paid. It is highly profitable. And you see a variation of ransomware displays a fictitious warning that software license has expired. Oh, there's a problem. Users must purchase additional software online to fix the problem. Yeah. Now, a lot of it is they encrypt your files. They take your files and they put a password on it, an encryption key. And until you have that encryption key, you can't view your files. And then they'll send you an email or a message saying you've got 72 hours to send us this, sum of money, or we're going to delete your files. The city of Atlanta was hit with one. There's hospitals and schools in Oregon that's been hit. There was one that was tearing up Europe year before last. That was, encrypting everybody's files. You may also see something like this. It's kind of scareware type ransomware, where they may pop up something that says you've been infected. Download this antivirus for $200. It's the only thing that's going to remove the infection. As we see the example here, like this here, where your computer's been locked. And if you have a webcam, laptop, it's going to turn on your webcam, laptop's camera, and you're going to see your face sitting there on your screen. And it's going to tell you different things on something like this. It may be anything from, you've been caught illegally downloading movies, you've been caught viewing sites you shouldn't be viewing, anything like that. It may pop up, and it's intended to either scare you into action, or you really are infected with something and it's going to encrypt all your files. All right, so this is the Win 7 Internet Security. This is the one where it's saying you're infected and you have to buy their antivirus. Don't ever pay this. Don't ever download this. Usually when you click on this, there's a giant box, a transparent box there that's really a big button that's saying install this virus on my computer. So this could open you up to more issues here for these scans. All right, crypto malware is a malicious form of ransomware where the threat actors encrypt all files on the devices so that none of them could be opened. This is the one where they're saying this is our encrypted files. You got 72 hours or you're not getting the files back. So once you're infected, the software contacts the threat actor's command and control server. It wants either instructed or updated data. A locking key is going to be generated. It's going to be applied to your files. The key is going to be encrypted with another key. And this is only sent to the victims once they pay their ransom. So this is an example of the crypto malware where your personal files have been encrypted. Rootkits are software tools used by an attacker to hide actions or presence of other types of malicious software. This hides or removes traces of login records, log entries, things of that nature. And it also may alter or replace operating system files with modified versions. And those modified versions are put in there so that it ignores any malicious activity that's happening. Which brings us to this part. The user can no longer trust their computer contains a rootkit. So the rootkit is in charge and hides what's occurring on the computer. Remember we talked about last week what my professor defined a secure computer as. You know, it was a computer that does exactly what it's supposed to do and nothing else. So in this situation here, if you have a rootkit, you know, if it's got it to where it's ignoring malicious activity or it's changing files, that computer is not supposed to do that. So therefore, it is no longer a secure system. We see some examples here of a computer infected with a rootkit. We'll zoom in on this. Close that. All right, so on here we're seeing 3 files. You see your archives, your figures, research, and then there's a rootkit files. Okay, so these are the actual list. But what you're actually only seeing are these files. That file is hidden from your view. So that's an example of something that may be infected with a rootkit. You do not know it's there sometimes. All right, payload capabilities. This is where the destructive power of malware is found. The primary capabilities of the payload is either going to be to collect data, delete data, launch an attack, or modify system security settings. So when it collects data, this is going to look at stuff like spyware, adware. You know, adware is something that's going to pop up, you know, different ads that are targeted to you. Spyware is looking to see where you've been doing, you know, what sites you've been going to, what are you doing on your system. All right, spyware is going to gather that information without the user consent. This is something that's going to look for, you know, personal or sensitive data. It's going to distribute it and collect that information. Keyloggers capture and store each keystroke that a user types on the computer's keyboard. Now, from that, the attacker then searches the captured text for any information such as password, credit card numbers, or personal information. Sometimes they're hard to get off. Years ago, my brother-in-law, my brother-in-law and I played World of Warcraft, and he got a keylogger installed on his computer. And he went to log in on his account, and all of his gear was going off his character, and all of his money and everything. So he scanned his computer, thought he got rid of the keylogger. Blizzard gave him all his gear back, the GMs. The next day, the same thing happened. And so then I gave him some stuff that I had. And then the third day happened, and he got hit again. Now, he was changing his password each time. But because he was infected with keyloggers and wasn't getting them off of his system, it was sending the data. Every time he would type in a new password, it would send the data back to the attacker. He finally got it taken off there. Now, not only can keyloggers be software, they can also be hardware devices, a little small device that plugs in. It's going to be inserted between the keyboard connection and the USB port. It can also be software that's installed on your computer. The advantage of software keyloggers is that you don't have physical access to the computer. And as I was saying to my brother-in-law, you know, it sends information back over the internet. He was actually infected from some company in China. They were selling digital currency on that game for real money. And so they were employing people to just play that game all day and gather small things and then sell it for the gold in the game and then sell the gold for real money. And then they decided that they could launch an attack on people and just steal their passwords and steal their stuff and sell that gold. It was a lot quicker and easier for them to do that. All right, so this is some software keylogger screenshot. So example of a hardware keylogger. All right, adware is programs that deliver advertising content in a manner unexpected, unwanted by the user. Something's going to usually be in a pop-up or a banner. It may be something that just randomly opens your browser. It's usually going to be something that you're not wanting to see. It can be objectionable content. It can just be annoying where it just pops up all the time while you're trying to do something. It can slow your computer, eat up your resources, and it's just a general nuisance. Happened to your Mac?
Yeah, like about every minute, like an ad would pop up, and it was awful.
Yeah, those adware is horrible. So I mean, there's programs you can use, and everybody's going to have their own preference about which one they prefer to use. But there's programs you can go in and you can download reputable antivirus, adware programs, spyware programs, stuff of that nature to help keep you protected. All right, logic bombs are computer codes that lie dormant until it's triggered by a specific logical event. So these are things that'll, you know, it may not be scanned, may not be found until it happens, till it's triggered. Maybe in a large computer program it's not scanned. All right, backdoor gives access to a computer program or service that circumvents normal security to give program access. They allow the attacker to return at a later time and bypass security settings. You guys will hear this a lot with programmers that they used to build themselves a backdoor into programs when they were developing programs, and I'm sure they still do. I'm sure a lot of those security has cracked down on that. That would give them access to certain programs that they normally wouldn't have access to. All right, a bot or a zombie is an infected computer that's under the remote control of an attacker. When you have a group of zombie computers together in a logical computer network, it's called a botnet, and it's under control of the attacker or a bot herder. These infected zombie computers wait for instructions through the command and control structure from the bot herders. And a common CNC mechanism used today is HTTP, which is more difficult to detect and block. Okay, why do you think HTTP is more difficult to block? It's the start of the URL. You know, so I mean, all your web traffic is going to have that or HTTPS. All right, some types of attacks you can have with botnets. Spamming. So it's widely recognized as the primary source of spam email. This allows a botnet consisting of 1,000 bots, enables an attacker to send massive amounts of spam. It can be used for spreading malware, manipulating online polls. Okay, now that's because each one of those are going to have a unique IP address, so that some of these polls that you go to, and for example, maybe one that says, you know, who do you support for president? Or who will you vote for in the primary? Or who do you vote, do you like shopping at this store? Or do you agree with this? Do you agree with that? You have polls on like a lot of news sites, but they'll be registered that your IP address can only vote one time. Well, with these botnets, because they each have a unique IP address, it's one person voting thousands of times. So it kind of messes up the online polling. Denying services. Botnets can also flood a web server with thousands of requests and overwhelm it to the point that it cannot respond to legitimate requests. All right, so in that case, we have the botnet sending out a request, the server gets it, and it sends a reply back saying, okay, we're listening. What's the next step in the instructions you want? What do you want to do? And then instead of it responding back and completing the interaction, it just leaves it hanging there. And then so the next one goes out and does the same thing. And eventually all of the connections to the server is full. And so then when we go to connect to it and we're legitimately trying to say access a website, we can't because it's all tied up waiting on these other responses because the service has been denied. All right, social engineering attacks. Social engineering is a means of gathering information for an attack by relying on the weakness of individuals. Individuals are going to be your number one weakness. People are your number one security threat. This can be something that's a psychological approach or a physical procedures. All right, the psychological is where the goal is to persuade victims to provide information or take an action. So they've got different types of techniques they use to gain trust. Maybe provide a reason, project confidence, use evasion and diversion, make them laugh. Social engineering attacks can be somebody you know. It can be a coworker. It could be somebody from outside the company that friends you. It could be somebody that is, impersonation, phishing, spam, hoaxes, and watering hole attacks are different types of attacks.
There's this one spam email that's going around where they mention a woman who wants a pet sitter for her sweet little dogs.
Yeah, it be stuff like that. Well, we looked at the email the spam email we got from or the phishing email we got from the president of the college last week. They actually sent out another one this week. All right, impersonation. The attacker pretends to be someone else. Help desk support technician, repair person, IT support manager, a trusted third party, a fellow employee. Now, with this, the attacker will often impersonate a person with authority because the victims are generally going to resist saying no to a person in power. Help desk is not going to call you, or an IT technician is not going to come to you at work and say, hey, I need your password. There's something wrong with your account. Your bank is not going to call you or send you an email saying, we need you to respond to this and give us your updated password. There's a video with Kevin Mitnick. It was, I think I told you guys in the other class about him. He was at one time the world's most wanted hacker. And I'm going to post a link to it in Blackboard sometime this semester. It will not be a graded assignment, but it will be an assignment for you guys just to watch the video. We'll watch it for you guys that are in this class. We'll watch it in person in here. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long. In there, he talks about how he used impersonation to get the source code from Motorola from one of their popular phones back in the 90s. And he's in the video, he said that phone was like the iPhone of the 1990s on cell phones. And he was able to pick up information through his multiple phone calls to where he was actually able to get the information that he needed. He also gives a demonstration in one of his hacks to where he can use his cell phone to have it spoof as being somebody else's cell phone. So he was able to, as it says here, impersonate a person of authority. In the example he gave there, he was able to say he was the CEO and text his secretary and said, Kevin Mitnick's coming by, give him all of the financial records for the third quarter. By the way, I'm on the golf course and won't be able to be reached, so don't call me. Now, if you're the secretary and you get a text from your boss, or you're the assistant, or you get a text from the owner of the company, the manager of the company, says, don't text me, I'm not going to be available, would you text them? So they would do this thinking that they won't be, people won't say no to them. All right, phishing, send an email claiming to be from a legitimate source. Tries to trick the user into giving it private information. Emails and fake websites are difficult to distinguish from those that are legitimate. This was like the email from the president of the college that was sent out that we looked at. It was, phishing emails were sent out. Maybe something saying, we need you to click here. Your bank needs updated information. You click on it, the link, it takes you to a site that looks exactly like your bank's information. But it may be, say, if you're using Capital One for your bank, or I don't know what's another bank around here. Say you're using Capital One, it may have, 2 letters flipped in the URL. Something that's not going to be very noticeable to your eyes. We also have variations of phishing attacks. Spear phishing, it targets a specific user. Whaling is going to target the big fish. That's what it's going after, like the CEOs, the guys on Wall Street, the millionaires. And then phishing is, instead of a email, telephone calls used instead. That's something that really gets a lot of the older generation. People that are older in age, that they're used to people calling them for stuff. They get that a lot with people calling and saying, hey, I'm the electric company, you got a bill that's due, I need you to pay this. There's actually a scam that's going on around right now. I don't remember the details on it, but there was one that was recently in the news. And about 97% of all attacks start with phishing. All right, so this is an example of a phishing email. I didn't click off of it. All right, so say you send a payment of this amount to Moore's Cope. It's when you click the view the details of the transaction code. Now, this here, when you click this, it's going to take you to a site that's kind of set up like PayPal, but it's going to ask you to log in. And the site's going to look just like it. URL is going to be different. What do you think is going to happen when you click on it? Or when you put your information in that site? If you click on the attackers have got your password for PayPal and your username. So it's telling you to look into this account down here. Now, they can set this up where it looks like the real thing, but when you actually click on it, it's redirecting you. My rule of thumb is I don't click on links in emails. If I get an email from PayPal or I get an email from my bank, I'm not clicking on any link in there. Okay, I'm going to go to the actual website and conduct any business or anything I need to change there. Spam is unsolicited email. This is a primary vehicle for distribution of malware. It costs spammers very little to send millions of spam messages. There are filters in your email programs that are supposed to catch spam. They look for specific words and block the email. To get around that, they use image spam, which uses graphical images instead of text or of text in order to circumvent text-based filters. And it often contains nonsense text, so it appears legitimate. So basically what they want you to do is they want you to click on the image, or they're just sending out spam, unwanted things, and want you to click on it to download. Once again, I don't click on anything. So this is an example here of an image, and it's got some nonsense text down at the bottom. And all it is trying to get around your spam filters. Certain email programs have better spam filters than others. My wife, for some reason, still uses Yahoo, and I can't get her to change off of it. And she will have 5,000 email messages come through her spam filter. They get through that shouldn't be there. Hoaxes are false warnings, usually claiming to come from the IT department or maybe from somebody with authority. If it is from the IT, normally it's going to get the victims, trying to get the victims to change configuration settings on their computers. It'll come down and be like an email or something saying, we've got an update, but you need to allow this update through by changing, cutting off the firewall. We need to access your computer. It may also have a telephone number so the victim can call for help, and it puts them in direct contact with the attacker. So just in case you don't know how to cut that firewall off, they are providing you the service of letting you know how to cut it off. They're going to walk you through step by step on cutting your firewall off. If you have a question about is this legit or not, and it is your organization's IT, always contact them. Do not reply to the message that you get, but you can always contact your IT and say, is this legit? You can forward it to your IT department and ask them, hey, is this really you guys? If you have any questions about it. It's always best to be safer than sorry. All right, water and hole attack. This is a malicious attack that's directed towards a small group of specific individuals who visit the same website. So, for example, they're saying that a manufacturing company, the executives from these manufacturing companies, they all go to the same website. They may have to go there to order their raw material, the parts for whatever they're making. So in that case, they look and they target them. They attack them so that they know who they're going after or what small percentage they're going after in that case. Security is not only something we have to worry about as far as digital format, as far as our protected electronic format or electronic access. We also have to worry about physical security. Our two most common physical procedures are dumpster diving and tailgating. All right. So dumpster diving is exactly what it sounds like. They are people that are going to go jump in the dumpster and dig through files, dig through the garbage, looking for files, looking for any type of data that they can use in the attack. You know, and they also have a electronical version of this. So using Google search engine, look for documents, and that's been posted online. It's called Google Dorking. Now, dumpster diving. You know, companies may throw away operating manuals. They may throw away policies, old policies that's been updated, or phone directories. You know, stuff that may be thrown out. Maybe something as simple as saying, "This is our system. We use, you know, Windows 10 operating system. We use this certain software. This is our security settings." So that stuff gets thrown away. It may be stuff that just old documents, old pieces of paper, or stuff that they don't think they need. And so the attackers get in there and they get that information. What it does, it helps them plan their attack. It gives them information that they can use. All right, so how many of you guys in this room know the name of the IT guy here? Okay, well, his name's Daniel. All right, so if you guys were working at a company, his name's Daniel, and you know your IT guy's name's Daniel, and you get a phone call from somebody, "Hey, this is Daniel from IT. We've got something happened to your computer. Can you turn the firewall off so I can activate this piece of software to fix it?" Would you be more willing to trust that phone call? Now, take into consideration, you've probably never spoken to Daniel before in your life, but you just know his name's Daniel. Would you be more willing to take that phone call than you would if somebody just calls, "Yeah, this is IT. I need you to cut the firewall off so I can update the software"? You would be more likely to trust the name that you know than you would just some random person saying, "This is so-and-so for IT," or "This is just IT." So little things like that, just getting into the employee directory would help them plan the attack and to try to carry out an attack. So any information the company throws away can be used against them like that.
That's why my mom always put, let's sometimes credit card companies send you stuff in the mail, and even give you a card. She'll put that stuff in the kitchen trash.
Yeah. All right, so look at some examples here. You know, how things that can be retrieved from dumpster diving helps the attacker. A calendar. The calendars reveal which employees are out of town at a particular time. You know, it's maybe last year's calendar. You know, maybe they've done this for a couple of years and they've got calendars. They can say, "Okay, I can see a pattern here that, you know, employee X takes vacation the first week of July every year." You know, they can find things such as flash drives, portable hard drives, things of that nature. They may have files on it that's still there, still recoverable files. Memos, organizational charts, so they can see, okay, who's in charge of this. We talked about phone directories, policy manuals, okay, so they can find out what are the, you know, what are the rules of the company. One of the company says this is what we do. System manuals tells them what type of computers are used in the building, in the company, what type of networks in there. It gives them information so they're a little bit more prepared for the attack than if they didn't have that information. Tailgating is following an authorized individual through an access door. You know, something like piggybacking. So this is something that like an employee could let somebody come in with them, let them follow them through. You know, tailgating may be somebody dressed up as a delivery person and have their hands full of something, and they, you know, people want to be helpful. So if you've got a secure building, so you have to use a code or a card to swap to get in, you know, and a delivery guy's come up and he's got all these packages, and he can say, "Can you get the door for me?" You know, chances are people are going to hold the door, trying to be nice, trying to be courteous. It's tailgating. Okay, they're allowing maybe an unauthorized person into the facility. Piggybacking, that could be same thing. They're allowing somebody to come in with them. Watching an authorized user enter security code on a keypad is known as shoulder surfing. Okay, so basically you're just looking over their shoulder and getting the code down. Getting the code they're writing in. It doesn't have to be just code. It can be passwords, any of those things in nature. All right, so that is chapter 2. For the online students, if you have any questions about chapter 2, feel free to just send me an email. Remember your assignments this week to work on your MindTap assignments. Also, be sure to complete your discussion board.